Hello everybody and welcome again to the Calvinism channel. So in this video we're going to take a look at the life of a famous Calvinist preacher, George Whitefield, which is described in a book by Stephen J. Lawson, The Evangelistic Zeal of George Whitefield. So this video will be both a biography of a famous Calvinist preacher, but also a book review, which describes his life. And so let's look at who was George Whitefield. He lived from 1714 to 1770, right in the middle of the 18th century. He was one of the greatest evangelists of all time and also a Calvinist in his theology. And he was also one of the main figures of the Great Awakening in the American colonies during the 18th century. He was called the Grand Itinerant. He preached from the British Isles to Holland and from Boston to Savannah, Georgia. According to William Cowper in Whitefield, the apostolic times seem to have returned upon us. Augustus Toplady said, "The prince of preachers, the apostle of the English empire." That's how he described George Whitefield. And also Charles Spurgeon himself admired him as the chief of preachers. That's what Spurgeon called Whitefield. Now let's take a look at some amazing statistics about the preaching activity of George Whitefield. It was calculated in Lawson's book that more than 80% of all American colonists had heard Whitefield preach on one occasion, which is more than the number of people who saw General George Washington. In total, Whitefield preached to a whopping more than 10 million people. That is simply staggering. And this is all the more staggering because at that time, the population of Britain and of America were relatively less than they are today. In the year 1739 alone, he preached to 650,000 people per month, or 22,000 people per day. Often he preached 3 times a day to crowds, which were between 10 to 35,000, and even whole portions of cities came to hear Whitefield preach. So this was truly amazing. Some more statistics. When people heard many times that Whitefield was coming to town, they left their plows and all their equipment in the field, and they came to listen to him. That's how popular and well-known he was. Between 1739 and 1741, more than half the books by Benjamin Franklin were by or about Whitefield. And also by the age of only 24, Whitefield had preached to about 1 million people in the greater London area. That is a lot. Now, interestingly, Whitefield was Calvinist in his theology. He believed that Adam's personal offense was imputed to all men, and thus the entire depravity of his fallen nature imparted to all his seed. Whitefield believed that if the doctrine of election is denied, then man can glory in part in himself, and the danger of self-love and self-glory ensues. He also believed that universal redemption lulls people into false security and unwarranted peace, and also Whitefield upheld the final perseverance of the saints. So we see that, and also he employed thieves, liars, harlots, drunkards, and other sinners to come to Christ. God truly used Whitefield as an evangelist. Many people came to Christ because of Whitefield, and so we can be very thankful that God used him as a tool to win many people for Christ.